Hi, I'm Tammy Murray, and I have a story to tell. I was attending another church, but I got an email inviting me to a singles mom event here. I came in, I heard the testimony of the speaker that night. It was a story of a lot of broken relationship after a broken relationship, and she told of how she come to a point where she was so broken that God come to her and asked her to spend a year alone with Him. That night, she asked all the single moms to take the challenge of spending 1 year alone with Jesus and allow Him to be their healer and allow Him to be their husband, allow Him to be their provider. And as hard as that was, I had a fear of being alone, and He kept speaking to me, come on, let me heal you, let me heal your wounds, let me treat you like a princess, let me be your provider. And I took the challenge, and the first year alone with Jesus was one of the hardest of my life. It felt like a detoxing from all the broken relationships, all the trauma, all the hurt that I had caused people and that had been done to me. And I felt like at times He was pulling me through that first year, dragging me through. And we got to the end, and here I was looking at what's next. And at the end of that year, He said, I had to drag you through the first. Will you go with me willingly through the second? And I said yes. And it became this journey of each year. At the end of the year, He would say, will you go with me another? Will you go with me another? And each year He was teaching me something different about myself and about Him. So the Lord brought me here in 2020, January 2020, and March 2020 happened. It was kind of hard for me to understand. Here I am starting out in a new church, new groups. I wasn't sure, how things were going to work out. But as soon as I came, I instantly got plugged in with the singles group Bible study, and also found a group called Hands and Feet where we go out and serve in the community. He just kept telling me just to be obedient, just to keep trusting me. Things were getting tight. They were sending out the stimulus checks, and I just remember getting one and just kind of going back and forth, like God was saying, okay, are you gonna tithe that? And I was like, oh, should I tithe this? And I remember just having this kind of conversation over a couple of weeks and just thinking, I need to hang on to this because I don't know what the rest of this year is going to look like. Whenever I decided to tithe my stimulus check, it was unbelievable what happened after that. The next week, I was blessed by a message that said, hey, I have something to give to you. I feel the Lord's telling me to give you something. And so I meet a lady from one of my groups in a parking lot, and she hands me a card with money in it. It was double of what I had tithed, and followed up with getting another phone call from another lady in one of my groups, asking me for me to give her my address because she had something to drop off to me. And I remember she pulled up in the driveway, and I walked out, and she handed me an envelope, and she said, my parents said that they didn't have a use for this, and did I know anybody that needed it? And she said, the Lord put you on my heart. I opened it, and it was her parents' stimulus checks. What I tithed, God multiplied that tenfold, and it just really blew me away of how He provided way above and beyond all that I could have even imagined. And there's so much more about 2020 that I could tell you, but let me fast forward on to my 6th year walking with Jesus as my husband. Our lives became a little bit more lonely after the shutdown, just some disconnection that happened. And so the 6th year for me, it became one of my hardest. I just entered this time of feeling lonely yet wanting to be left alone. It was such a strange feeling. And I remember spending a lot of that year just asking, like, why do I have to do this, Lord? Like, this is so hard. This is so lonely. So after just pouring my heart out, He said, if you'll go with me another mile, if you'll go with me 7, I have a great plan and a purpose for your life. And I believe He said that because I was starting to lose hope that there was more purpose in my life. Like, the devil had been telling me my life, the best years of my life were over. And I knew that was a lie, but he kind of was getting in my head about it. And so when Jesus said, "Go with me 7, and I have a great plan and a purpose for your life," that really spoke to me. It caused me to get up and just keep walking with Jesus, and excited about what the 7th year was going to bring. He showed me that to be all about his business, I'm going to have to overcome some fears in my life. So one of the first things he did in this 7th year together is he invited me on a mission trip to Egypt. For me to go to Egypt, it took a lot of faith because my greatest fear being flying on an airplane. And once I got there, my other fear would have to be conquered of talking in front of people, sharing my testimony in front of others. I knew to go on that trip that he was going to have to provide the way for me to go. Being a single mom and the cost of the trip, not only was he going to have to provide me the courage, but he was going to have to provide the means for that. And he did all of those things. I look back and I see what he did through that trip of deepening my faith, building my trust in him, and him just showing me that when I trust him, he shows up. Coming back from Egypt, here I'm wondering what's the next thing, what's the next assignment. What the next thing was a diagnosis of breast cancer. And it's something I never saw coming, but when it came, he had built my trust so much that I knew I could trust him. He was there every step. He took me into room number 7 of my doctor's office for the doctor to tell me after surgery that I was cancer-free. And that was still him just showing me how ever-present he is and how I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to be afraid of all these things that I'm afraid of because he's with me and he can work through me. I feel like he has shown me that through my surrender, through my commitment to him, and through obedience, that is where the power of his provision shows up. So not knowing what the rest of this year holds, I'm looking forward to greater things with Jesus. Through these 7 years and through this year of facing fears, Jesus has shown me time and time again that he's in every detail, that he is for me. He is going to provide for me.